Coming up on This Week in Computer Hardware, delidding your Haswell CPU, 8 terabyte hard drives, tiny PCs, SSD bargains, a couple of nice PSUs, X99, Haswell-E, and more. It's all coming up next on Twitch.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twitch.
Bandwidth for Twitch is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, episode 282, recorded August 28th, 2014. 8 terabytes of Haswell-E X99. Welcome to Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware. Twitch weekly show that aims to bring you the most useful, most informative, most helpful, and most delightful information, answers to viewer questions, and general exploration of what it is to be a modern-day user of modern-day hardware, whether you're talking about traditional desktops, the occasional server, or the everyday use of tablets, and, of course, smartphones. My name is Patrick Norton, and I am joined, as always, by Mr. Brian Shrout, who actually may be more tired than I am tonight.
Yeah, and I've got several hours worth of writing left to do tonight as well. So it's going to be one of those good nights where I like go to bed at like 2 to 3 a.m., but then have to get up really early to like launch a story and all that kind of deal. It'll be fun. But hey, it's Friday.
It's time for you to get a CMA that can post the story live without you being conscious.
I can do that, but I'm always a little nervous about it. I just want to be there. It's like a child. I want to make sure it goes out into the world correctly.
And not with its umbilical cord wrapped around its neck.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I just had a situation like that with the Texzilla episode this week, so I understand your feelings. One of the more unusual photographs I've seen in quite some time. Take a look at delidding your Intel Haswell CPU. Maury wrote this up for PC Per. And what you're looking at there is a vise and the end of a 2x4 and a Haswell processor. And at this point, if you aren't thinking to yourself, goodness, that just doesn't look like something I would normally do to my incredibly expensive or incredibly cheap processor. So we're talking about removing the heat, and that's an upside-down CPU, by the way, lest you be terribly confused and horrified. They didn't rip the actual chip off the top. But you're talking about removing the heat spreader from off the chip. Is this to modify it for cooling, or is this for the unlimited joy of just seeing what's underneath the heat spreader?
It is. So the reason people do it is for the cooling purposes, right? Because you're removing the heat spreader, and maybe removing whatever questionable thermal interface material there may be between the die and the heat spreader, and you're going directly to the die. And this is only something you do if you're crazy, one, and two is just like super extreme overclocking, or you want really extreme water cooling as well, right? Which is what Maury's target really was with this.
Well, Burke, I don't know if you can pull up page 3 of this, you will see the MSI D-Lid Die Guard, and essentially what's going on here is the heat spreader has been removed, and the actual Haswell processor in this case is exposed. The chip itself, should any of you remember the glory days of AMD CPUs that usually you had like a 1 in 3 chance of wiping out the CPU in the process of mounting the heatsink on the processor while assembling the motherboard. Burke and I... Burke's nodding his head. I can hear Ryan in the background. You know, I've saved 3 processors to turn into a hat band someday, from one particularly ugly couple of months of AMD building. But essentially, right, so the D-Lid Die Guard allows you to mount basically your cooling device just that much closer to the processor and that much more efficiently. You don't look like you're into that at all.
I have never done it on purpose. I've also never done it on accident, I guess I should say. This to me is, so there was this is what people should do though, if for research purposes, right? If only for research purposes. This is how we kind of found out that the thermal interface in Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, and the first generation of Haswell was kind of meh. Right, and this is why Devil's Canyon was released, because they updated the thermal interface because people complained about it, because they said, hey, we can delid our processors and get much better cooling not using the heat spreader, which doesn't make any sense.
hate that.
And yeah, so the idea is, you've got that D-lid guard, and it's supposed to protect it. In this case, we don't know if it was the fault of the D-lid guard or something else in his system, but he actually cracked his die, even using that D-lid guard, right? So even if you're using, taking kind of all necessary precautions when you're doing something like this, it's still possible to ruin everything. So
it's
I would not
completely ruined. It just won't run stably for extended periods of time anymore. And so use it for like one level of insert game here at a time. Then I guess you restart the system. And you're right. Like this, back into the days of the AMD Thunderbird. I mean, this is how all processors shipped, right? Like you just had the bare die, and I cracked more than my fair share of corners of processors. Doing that as well. So it was the tiniest sound of the tiniest piece of silicon just off the edge. You could hear it. You could feel it more than you could hear it.
And they even sold, they had like little shims like this, essentially like this D-lid die guard that would sit on top of it. Because I think those processors had like little foam pads on on all four corners of the processor as well. And I don't know how much they helped, but whatever.
It's a lovely theory.
I thought we had moved past that. Maury decided that we had not.
Maury's a wild man.
He is.
Maury went for it. Maury paid the price. We'd like to thank Maury for taking this adventure on behalf of all of us.
For all of our entertainment, correct.
Or just the advancement of knowledge. Speaking of which,
yeah, sure, yeah.
While we're talking about and the advancement of knowledge, videocards.com has what may be some inside information on Haswell-E pricing and model numbers. Jeremy's got the write-up at PCPer.com. Essentially what you're looking at is a bunch of fancy new Core i7 processors for 2014. The Core i7 5960X, the 5930K, and the 5820K running at, it's kind of funny, the 5960 is running at 3 gigahertz, the 5930 at 3.5 gigahertz, the 5820 at 3.3 gigahertz, and then you're basically looking at 8 16 cores for the 5960 and 6 and 12 for the 5930 and 5820, selling for a robust price of $389 to $999. And some pretty old school TDPs. Like I never thought I'd see 140 watts on a CPU again, but apparently they're just jamming the wattage into these things.
Well, Ivy Bridge E is 130 watts. So it's a 10-watt increase, not a dramatic increase. And keep in mind that these processors are really server workstation processors that they're just kind of bringing down to the enthusiasts. So I'm totally comfortable with this for a processor, and I miss the days where 88 wasn't the top TDP. Anyway, so and you can see, I mean, if you look at that slide that shows the table of differences, you look at where the 88 watt TDP is of the 4790K, a great processor. It's quad core, 2-channel memory. You jump up to 140 watts, and now you're at up to 8 cores and 4 channels of memory. So when you have that TDP flexibility, there's a lot more stuff you can do, and I think that's okay. It's okay for Intel to want to go to low TDPs, but I'd like for them to at least offer these higher TDP options into the future as well. So I'm excited about this release. I really am. I think it's going to be cool.
Are you more so excited for the X99, like chipsets and motherboards, or for the actual processors, or just in general?
I would say probably the processors, right? Because the motherboard, there will be new motherboards, there'll be cool new designs, and they have some new features as well. But the move to 8 cores, the move to quad channel DDR4, 40 lanes of PCI Express, which is actually something that the previous generation had. I think that the total package will be pretty interesting. And maybe finally, I don't know how many times we're going to say this, but maybe try to give people like you on the Core i7 920
a reason to
another
upgrade.
Excuse, another reason, a purpose.
Well, I'm laughing. Like, I mean, it's funny. So we were talking before the show where for Die Trying this week, we did the 3220 build, right? Pentium 3220. It's 2 cores. Like, I don't particularly want to be rendering video or doing Photoshop editing on this thing, but Titanfall is really badass on $380 worth of hardware. You know, it can be a desktop or home theater PC for $230 worth of hardware. You know, if you buy a new case, let's call it $260, $265 worth of hardware. So on one hand, yeah, I'm kind of almost ready to upgrade that Core i7-920, and then I'm like running a Pentium 3220, and it's playing Titanfall at 1080p and taking names and kicking ass and going. So I'm going to spend, you know, $180 or $150 for a new motherboard plus a new high-end processor, and I could build an entire PC that'll run Titanfall for approximately the price, well, or even less than the price of the motherboard and the chip. But I don't know. I'm so close, so close.
You know, the prices on the processors are pretty plain there, and I think, you know, very few people buy the Extreme Edition $1,000 parts.
No.
Much more popular are those mid-range $500 and $380 parts, and I don't know where motherboards are going to be pricing wise.
Right.
But
all over the map, dude.
Not on the low side, I don't think, for the X99. But
well, it's funny, right? So you know, there's been a few more X99 motherboard releases. Somebody released like leaked one of the Asus motherboards. You know, there's another article up on PC Per. The EVGA teases classified X99 Micro ATX Haswell-E motherboard. This is. Maximum PC says this is going to be a $250 Micro ATX motherboard, which may make it the most expensive Micro ATX motherboard we've ever seen.
They say, wait, what did they say the price is going to be?
According to Maximum PC, this pint-sized classified motherboard will be priced at around $250 US.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they said $350.
No.
My mind was boggling.
$250. Well,
it's a cool looking board, though.
It is, absolutely. It's the
look at how big the CPU socket and memory, kind of like that block of stuff is on that picture.
I mean, it's pretty crazy.
It's half the board.
Look at the row of look at the row of capacitors on the right side of the chip. So it's got 4 memory slots. You know, it's funny. 6 SATA ports on there. There's a pretty good amount of. I mean, it's dense. It is a densely packed board.
SLI and probably Crossfire support as well.
Oh, those are 3 PCI 3.0 X16 slots.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you've only really got 2 if you're using 2 slot cards, but you could put in a primary card and then have 2 slots over for PCI Express storage, and then put like the second graphics card on that bottom slot. That's one of the benefits of what X99 and what Haswell-E and Ivy Bridgey and Sandy Bridgey have, is they have 40 lanes of PCI Express as opposed to 16 lanes of PCI Express that the mainstream parts offer. So, you know, not everybody needs more than 16 lanes of PCI Express. If you do 2 GPUs and maybe you want to go to a PCI Express SSD, because you got to remember, like M.2, that form factor that a lot of motherboards have, and I think that's what you can see that between the first and second PCI Express slot on that EVGA board is an M.2 port that uses PCI Express lanes. If you want to have Thunderbolt connectivity on one of these boards, that uses PCI Express lanes. So the more you have, the better, and the more flexibility you're going to have kind of as you want to expand and as you want to add things to a desktop PC.
Oh my goodness. I've been playing it. One, I finally found inexpensive Thunderbolt cables, lightning cables are starting to show up. And 2, yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with having that available on my desktop in the near future. So perhaps that could be what drives me to X99. Oh my goodness. From the stuff you want but can't actually buy. 8 terabyte hard drives of variety. This articles are up everywhere. I've got a link to an Engadget article here. Seagate just started shipping 8 terabyte hard disk drives, which are pretty much totally inappropriate for your home NAS. Basically, they're enterprise class drives. They're designed to be super low power. They're 8 terabytes, and I cannot imagine how much these are going to cost given the rate. Let's see if I can find the. Where is it? Public and private data centers are grappling with efficiently storing massive amounts of unstructured digital content. Sorry, I'm quoting the press release here. Apparently, it's my press release voice today.
That is your press release voice.
Yeah, the best watts per gigabyte for enterprise bulk data storage in the industry. CleverSafe There it is. CleverSafe is excited to once again partner with Seagate to deliver our customers what is truly an innovative storage solution. Delivering absolute lowest cost per terabyte along with the performance and reliability required for massive scale applications, the new 8 terabyte hard disk drive is ideal for meeting the needs of our enterprise and service provider customers who demand optimized hardware and the cost structure needed for massive scale out. Could you pack more buzzwords into a quote?
It'd be difficult.
Yeah, you know. SATA 6 gigabit per second interface, which you can't saturate unless you put a whole bunch of them together. But yeah,
right.
It's an interesting concept, and you know, they don't list a price because you can't afford it.
They don't list a price. They don't list availability. It's not like shipping today or anything. This is, and Alan was pointing out to me earlier today that they had actually talked about the 8 terabyte drives when they launched the 6 terabyte drives, that they would be just around the corner or something like that. And, you know, it's trying to keep excitement in the hard drive business has got to be fairly difficult.
I am always excited.
Yeah, I saw
about
that it
hard
has
drives.
started shipping, but it's not.
Started shipping to select customers with wide availability like next quarter. Yeah. Sorry. Like if you scroll down a little bit, Burke, you'll see it. Shipping drives to select customers now with wide scale availability next quarter. Sorry.
Yeah. You can get around any of that with clever wording, right? So I just don't feel like this is it's available right now product.
Right.
But hey, you know, density is better for everybody, you know, more storage per slot of hard drive bay that you may have, and in theory, you know, all things being equal, higher density platters mean faster drives and lower access times, and things
or
like
maybe
that.
it's a 4-platter drive. Maybe we're back to the multiple heads days.
Oh, we still got multiple heads.
Yeah.
It'll be like, I don't know. Alan was trying to explain to me how they can do overlapping data in some capacities. And you can write to it very quickly, but reading it in between is more difficult. I don't know. That may be what they're doing here. But let's move forward. Let's move forward. You know, 2 terabytes was going to be the end for everybody, and then we had 3 and 4 and 6, and now 8. Yeah.
Part of my favorite thing was one of the articles somebody wrote up about this had a picture of a Seagate GoFlex drive next to it. That made me giggle. Like one of the
little portable drive?
Yeah, one of the it was like this beautiful, you know, Seagate PR shot of a 2.5-inch Seagate GoFlex drive.
All right.
Because, you know, that's totally going to be packing 8 gigabytes this year. Dude, so NVIDIA G-Sync Surround Demo and Q&A. How'd it go, man? Alan and I were flogging it last week. Flogging it.
Do you
even remember last week?
In a positive way.
Yes.
Yes, and that was last week. That's correct. Because the next morning after the dinner I went to, we did a stream here. NVIDIA came out and brought a set of 3 G-Sync monitors. Those Asus ROG Swift G-Sync monitors. I am sad to report that today they were boxed up and sent out to FedEx.
No.
So that is the first bit of news. It's a very unfortunate occurrence. I said, hey, if you want me to test this as it improves, you're going to have to leave all these monitors here. And they were like, ha, 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 send those back, please.
When they pat you on the head and go, nice try.
yeah, pretty much. But I have to say, so I don't usually, you know, I've tested a lot of Eyefinity and surround configurations. You know, 3-screen configurations, 6-screen configurations, 5, surround with 3D vision, and now surround with G-Sync. And I have to say, the first thing is that monitor, that Asus monitor, is particularly good at just surround in general because of that super thin bezel. It's I think they say it's 6 millimeters on the side. Means that when you have 2 of them abutting, that window pane effect there is very minimized because of it. And I had this I don't know what to call it, phenomenon where with other surround configurations, that bezel was big enough, the gap in the screen was big enough that I didn't want to do bezel correction. You know what I mean by bezel correction, where like you artificially create a resolution bigger and like stuff can kind of hide behind that bezel, because it was so the bezel was so wide that either I felt like I was missing stuff, and then the kind of disconnect of something moving instantly from one point to several inches away point didn't affect me either. And in this case, I actually turned bezel correction on, and it never bothered me once. I didn't really notice it. It worked. It worked really well, and G-Sync worked flawlessly across all 3 monitors. The big problem, of course, with that is you have to have 3 graphics cards. We're running 3 GTX 780 Ti cards in that demonstration, and that's because, I mean, physically it's not possible any other way, right? Because you have to have a DisplayPort connection for each monitor, and all of NVIDIA cards only have 1 DisplayPort connection. So you have to have 3 physically to do it. But also, when you think about it, the amount of horsepower running a 7680 by 1440 resolution image, rendering at that resolution is really difficult. So having multiple graphics cards is going to be a requirement kind of in that regard as well. I wish that we only needed to have like 2 cards, because 2-way SLI is still a better experience than 3-way SLI in terms of stutter and performance and smoothness and that type of thing. So hopefully, whenever NVIDIA drops some new cards on us, they will have support for more than 1 DisplayPort connection on them to run multiples of these types of displays at once. I think they'd be crazy if they weren't going to do that. Plus,
it's always nice when you spend, $500 or $700 less on GPUs.
Yeah, if you don't have to, like if the performance is not an issue, then, that would be better. I mean, if you are spending these are $800 monitors, so you're spending $2,400 on displays as well. So, but I mean, you can kind of see from that video there how the bezel looks, and it's pretty reasonable, actually.
My favorite part of this is you don't really talk with a lot of lust in your voice about hardware. You know what I mean? Because you've been there, you've done that. You're in a room probably right now with 15 monitors and several dozen CPUs.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You don't really do hardware lust. So when you do, it means something was really, really awesome.
I have felt that way about G-Sync in general since last year when I first saw it, and I'm disappointed that it took this long to come out. And I'm disappointed that the one monitor that's for sale sold out almost instantly, and it's $800 and it's kind of expensive. But I really believe that it is a class ahead of other displays and what they offer for gaming specifically. And then in surround, the thing is about three-way monitors, whether it be on AMD Eyefinity or NVIDIA Surround, is it's not perfect. Like there are a lot of games that don't take that into consideration when they do development, right? They don't scale the UI elements. If you look at the screen here where we've got the 3 monitors, notice that all the UI elements are in the center monitor, as they should be when you are playing a game. For example, Civ 5, though, it runs at that resolution and it looks pretty good. The user interface stuff is in the top left-hand corner of the left-hand monitor and the top right-hand corner of the right-hand monitor and the bottom corners. And you physically have to fully rotate your body and head to look at the UI elements and messages that it's telling you. And it just makes for a very subpar experience.
Right.
But that's not G-Sync's fault. It's not even really Surround or Eyefiniti's fault. It's just kind of developer neglect, I guess I'll call it. So that's a good phrase. I'm going to save that. Yeah.
Well, it's all, I will say it may be a little excessive when you're talking about what percentage of the market on any given video game is going to be gaming, with $10,000 worth of monitors and GPUs.
100% agree. But it's so easy to do that hackers have written tools that you run an application called the flawless widescreen fixer. And you tell it what game you're about to start, and then you start the game, and it kind of changes INI files and changes settings in the game and the game engine to make it a better experience. Like Watch Dogs out of the box just is totally broken for multi-monitor gaming. It just totally doesn't work. And a
lot of games out of the box just totally don't work. They ship broken, and then there's a patch, and then you can play the game.
Yeah, you run this third-party app, community-developed app. And then you start the game up, and magically it works. And it's just well, this couldn't have been that much work. Because think of how much more work it was for the community to figure it out, kind of, dig into it and diagnose things. Whereas the developer could just been let's make a way to scale UI once your resolution goes over a certain aspect ratio. If your aspect ratio is more than 16:9, you have an interesting display. You could have one of those 21:9 you know, curved panels, right? Or just really long panels. And you still don't want the elements in the top right-hand corner and left-hand corner. So and that's a single display. So there's lots of things to consider in that. I'm not telling anybody to go spend $2,400 on these monitors. But if you happen to find 3 of them,
by all means,
try it out. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't go out of your way. But if you do, Ryan says you'll enjoy it. Oh my goodness. I love that moment when the message you're trying to find in the chat room has scrolled by at high speed and you realize you're probably
does that to me as well. Yeah.
Never going to find it again. There it is, Friendly Manitoba. We'll get to Friendly Manitoba in a second, but we should probably give a shout. It was like small computer week for me, starting several days ago when Maury forwarded me a link to something he thought I'd want to check out. Viva the Leva sale, ECS's barebone home theater PC. This is crazy. So Newegg is selling the ECS Leva, and the deal was $165 after an instant rebate, and then you could drop a code and take it down another $33, and you get this little tiny, you know, I don't know, like 6 packs of cards, a few packs of cigarettes, this tiny little box with a Bay Trail M N2807 at 1.8 gigahertz, 2 gigs of DDR3, 32 gigabyte eMMC storage, 802.11a, G, and N, Bluetooth 4.0, HDMI, D-sub ports, which can be used simultaneously, onboard stereo audio with a Realtek ACL 282. It draws 15 watts. Yeah. So I also should apologize to Bert because I just did the second one in that link first. So in that little chain of tiny machines.
He always likes it when we just mess with the show notes, change the order of things on the fly.
No, I'm Burke's looking at me with the look of recrimination and sadness, and he hasn't shaved in a few days, so he kind of looks like the sad clown minus the makeup.
Violent. Yeah.
Not so much violent, it's just disappointed. I'm disappointed in you, Patrick. How could you, Patrick? But it's crazy. I'm looking at this thing and like, not Burke's. You're not crazy, but this thing is crazy. But yeah. Put the picture back up. That's crazy. It's amazing, right? Bay Trail's an interesting processor, and this is essentially going to run a full x86 operating system, which makes me really happy. I like things that run real operating systems, which isn't to say there's anything wrong with operating embedded versions of Linux or FreeBSD, but I don't know. I get excited when I get full x86 compatibility. Zotac shrinks the mini PC further with new pocket size ZBox PI320 Pico. Jeremy wrote this up in PC Per. $200 box, which includes the hardware, but Windows 8.1, which essentially means this is a $100 box with a $97 piece of software on it. 4.5 by 2.6 by 3/4 of an inch. Quote, smaller than your average Galaxy smartphone and every bit as capable. So you're looking at, you know, a box that's 3/4 of it. It's thick, smaller than a smartphone, and running quad-core Windows 8.1. So Bay Trail, this was another one. Bay Trail core, quad-core processor with Intel HD graphics. For snappy system responsiveness and stunning high-definition video playback capabilities. So this could be an even smaller home theater PC. Except I don't know if it actually has a video output on it. HDMI, good. So it'll support 1080p. And then, just because apparently I can't get away from the tininess, Broadwell Intel NUCs being developed, probably though not until first quarter of 2015. Scott Michaud wrote that up on PCPer.com. But essentially another leaked chart, this one from Fanless Tech, and a whole bunch of potential Intel NUCs. And I think the NUCs are really interesting as they start playing around. I want to see a dual Ethernet NUC so I can run pfSense on it. I want to see like a dual Ethernet NUC with some decent external storage capacity, like a, you know, dual Ethernet and a Lightning port. So I'll go.
Well, the one, I mean, I have one that has Thunderbolt, but it doesn't have Ethernet.
Excuse me,
it has 0 Ethernet, let alone 2 Ethernet.
Not Lightning, Thunderbolt. I apologize. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like, so here we go. It's like 4 USB 3.0, HDMI VGA, micro HDMI plus micro display port. Let's see, Atom, i3, i5.
I think the coolest feature that I see listed in this leaked thing, if it turns out to be true, is there's a thing listed in the far right-hand column of Other that is titled WCHG HDRS, wireless charging headers with a replaceable lid. So you can have a NUC sitting on your desk, and if you get a replacement lid, you can have like a wireless charging. It'll be a wireless charging base for your phone. So you just set your phone on top of the NUC when you get to your office, and it would charge it. I just think that's the kind of stuff that is like interesting to see put in place, right? You wouldn't think of that. Well, let's make a small computer. Oh yeah, let's also make the top of it a wireless phone charger as well.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm seeing any Thunderbolt on this list, though.
I don't see that either. You've got USB 3, so if you're looking for just fast external storage, you'll have access to that. But you're right, I don't see any Thunderbolt, and that's kind of disappointing. I don't know. Thunderbolt is one of those technologies that I still see a whole bunch of potential in, but I don't know if anybody else does anymore. Like the number of motherboards that come out integrating it seem to be dwindling as opposed to growing. So,
but it's funny. It's like just as soon as there's some really badass external RAID boxes that can use Thunderbolt, it just goes away. It just goes away. Friendly Manitoba says, Patrick, he's in the chat room. Newegg is Samsung 840 EVO 500 gigabytes for $200 plus free shipping, which is ironically Newegg through eBay. And I'm thinking this is a little larger than Newegg and eBay, because it turns out if you go to Amazon.com, the Samsung Electronics 840 EVO Series 500 gigabyte 2.5-inch SATA 3 single unit version internal solid state drive MZ-7TE 500BW is selling for $199.99, and of course free shipping if you have Prime. The 1 terabyte is selling for, let me check really quickly, $438.77. So you can buy 2 500 gigabyte SSDs for less than the cost of a single 1 terabyte drive.
Then you can RAID them together and get twice the performance.
There you have it. Because, you know, you need more bandwidth than you can get off of a single SSD.
You need as much as you can possibly get. All of the time, as much as you can possibly get. Form factor dependent.
Right.
Willing to accept, you know, and small form factors, you can't do that. But hey, this is a desktop, do it. Or it's a notebook, and then don't. So
yeah. Well, what's funny about this is like the 500 gigabyte is now less per gigabyte than the 120 or the 250 gigabyte version. And the 1 terabyte
I'm sure that's
version.
just a sale, probably. It's probably not a normal price.
I was not
trying
to imply normalcy. I was just more like, hey, well, you look at that.
There was last week, I think between shows, there was a point where on Amazon you could get the 1 terabyte Crucial M550, which is comparable in performance, if not a little bit better. The 1 terabyte for $379.99.
And you didn't call me at 4 in the morning to wake me up to tell me to buy it?
No, I didn't. I did not. I did send a tweet out about it. So people that pay attention, you know, probably bought some of them. But if you look at that now, it's $75 more expensive already. Yeah. It's like $440, $450.
Yeah, $333. It's, I mean, you think about it, right? So the 512 gigabyte version is $303. So for just $72 more, you would double the capacity. Like, why? Yeah. Did they have an overrun? Was the warehouse packed? I mean, what's going on with
I don't know. It's definitely not that. I really can't explain it, because it's like when that M550 was $75 less expensive for 14 hours than it had been you know, any other time previous to that. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I don't understand how Amazon sells or how Newegg sells, or what, you know, they're trying to chase after SEO and attach rates or whatever they're doing. But as long as you pay attention, you can still get SSDs for damn cheap.
Damn cheap. Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you, Friendly Manitoba, for the heads up on that one.
And how many did you buy, Patrick?
I have not bought one yet. I just built a you just built a freaking $230 gaming machine, or $380 if you count the 750
Every
Ti.
$300 gaming machine needs a $200 SSD.
Maybe.
By the way, that as Burke pointed out, that same SSD is $199 on Amazon with Prime as well. So
yeah,
If you want to buy through eBay, you can buy it from Amazon.
If you don't want to deal with the glory of eBay. And I've mostly had very good luck with eBay, except for that one turbocharger purchase, but we won't talk about that. I should say a $230 home theater machine, sub $400 gaming machine. And if you drop from the 750 Ti down to the 750, you're almost at a $350 gaming machine. Almost. So close.
Is this without an operating system?
This is without an operating system.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'm finding it frustrating now that, like, you can buy, the operating system is now worth as much as the motherboard and processor and half of the memory combined.
How do you think Microsoft feels about that? They're probably not super excited.
Yeah, they're probably a little horrified, actually. I have a question for you. I was laughing. So P&Y had sent us a 750 Ti to look at, which is one of the things we use in this build. And I was laughing. The 1200 megahertz overclocked version sells for like $5 or $6 less than the 1000 megahertz standard 750 Ti. Why?
I don't know.
Good.
I don't know.
I feel better now.
I think what it has to do is its popularity of sale, and then like Newegg and Amazon and those guys, they're always watching each other, right? So somebody drops it and says, well, it's pretty popular. They sold a bunch at Newegg. Let's drop our price $5. Let's drop our price $5 below that, $5 below that, because you're right. It doesn't make any sense that the faster, better card would be $5 to $10 less than the slower card. And if they're selling, I don't believe that there's just a bunch sitting in stock, in a warehouse someplace, and that's what's determining the sale prices, because they change too often for really that to appear to be the case. It is one of the great mysteries of online purchasing.
Yeah, there it is. Oh wow. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Now it's $147 and $149.99.
So now they're only $2 difference.
Huh. $3 difference.
$3 difference. Math is hard.
Maybe they heard me talking about it before.
So now it's $3 more expensive.
Yeah, the overclock is $3 now, $3 more expensive than the standard version.
I feel like that's what happens to me when I tweet out and said, "Hey guys, look at this great deal on this SSD," and then like 2 hours later I go back and that price is gone, and then people who see that tweet late call me a big liar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, now I can see like this episode of Die Trying's gonna hit next week. People are like, dude, that 750 Ti is $150. It's not $134 like you said it was.
That's why every story I write says at time of publication or at time of writing or whatever it happens to be, to try to limit some of the trolling because of that as well. But
maybe they rotate, because here's a Zotac NVIDIA GeForce GTX 750 Ti for $138. So maybe they all rotate. Next week it'll be EVGA and then back to P&Y again.
Could be like an NVIDIA plan to make sure they always have at least one option less expensive than what AMD's best card is at that price point. That wouldn't surprise me in the least. Rotating rebates, if you will.
I will say I am in love with the 750 Ti.
It's a good card.
It's a ridiculous card for $140. It is super awesome. Twitch, TWiCH at twitch.tv. Twitch at twit.tv. Not the Twitch with a T that was bought by Amazon this week, causing weeping in the hearts of gamers everywhere. No. No, I did not.
You should check. You should keep your eye on the mailbox.
my Twitch check, my $500 million Twitch check.
Right. Yeah.
I would teach an entire generation of Americans to read if I had $500 million. That would be my goal.
Okay.
I'm going to punt with no money and an entire generations of Americans that could read. That would be so awesome.
Read at what level?
Period.
Okay. All right. Fine.
I'd like them all to read at a college level. I'd be, given that the New York Times, I think, is written at a 6th grade level, technically. Let's just say 6th grade level. Okay. How's that? But I would like to eliminate illiteracy. How's that? That's my personal goal. Everyone should be able to read.
Good.
So we got a question from Mark, a.k.a. McButterpants, in the chat room. He says, "Hey, Patrick and Ryan, I have a 2 terabyte external hard drive full of audio sample libraries that I use for audio production. Is there a way to attach this to my home network without the killer slow streaming speed via the router, perhaps? Would a NAS provide the speed I need? The goal basically is to be able to access this data wireless from my laptop or my desktop and not have to plug in the drive between computers back and forth. The epitome of lazy. Thanks, guys.
It's not lazy.
Mark.
That's not lazy.
It's
That
efficient.
is about being efficient and expecting your technology to work the way it's supposed to work, right? When you hook up computers and they don't work at the speeds they're supposed to work at, that's a problem.
So
Just saying.
somebody got really cross with me back in the DLTV days when we were figuring out how to when we started rendering it was like 16 hours to render all the different formats for the show.
Yeah.
And after about 9 months, we'd gotten it down to 4 hours to render these like 5 different versions of the show. And one of the big breakthroughs was me giving up on using gigabit Ethernet to transfer the files and going to SneakerNet and dragging. Like we would basically drag, like at that point I want to say FireWire drives were the fastest thing we can get our hands on, and dragging these FireWire drives from machine to machine to machine to machine to copy the file over, and then to start this crazy 3-hour rendering process on each of 4 machines in parallel. But literally we dropped like I think 70% of the time. We reduced the time it took to move the file by 70% by eliminating the network and doing it over a cable. And I fear, Mark, that may be one of the issues you run into. Yes, you could actually plug your USB drive into your router. And if you have a fairly fast router or something crazy like it might be worth experimenting with a NAS box or building a free NAS box, or if you have a particularly fast router. The problem is that, Wi-Fi is going to be slower than Ethernet. Ethernet's going to be slower than USB 2.0, maybe. USB 2.0 is going to be slower than USB 3.0. It's just the...
It is, yep.
I mean, how big are the libraries? How big is the average file? How much of the audio do you have to pull from? You could try plugging it, you could try plugging your USB drive into your router and see if it does it for you. You could try plugging it into a PC and sharing it. But I think your problem is going to be, even from the router, there's going to be a performance issue.
Probably.
It's worth trying.
Yeah.
But, when you look at when you do sort of a network just for like video or, I don't know about audio production, but like in our case, when we're working with like the big server that backs up all the data from all of our editing stations, we're using optical cables. We're using optical fiber for that network. It is a big, expensive network, and it makes it tolerable.
I would think with audio production, you might be able to get away with it, right? If you're running at gigabit speeds and you're getting somewhere between 70 to 100 megabytes per second, your latency will be higher. Right. So, like how long it takes if you're scrubbing through audio, if the software you're using isn't caching it all, right, that would be a little bit longer. But I would think throughput-wise, unless you're doing something super exotic with audio that I don't know or understand, I think you could probably get away with it. And like Patrick said, it's worth a shot, right? Just put a couple of source files on there and try to use it and go that way. And your cheapest route is, I think a dedicated NAS makes sense. I think that it has RAID, it has backup capability. But maybe first, just to test it out, just hook up, if you have a second PC with gigabit Ethernet, hook it up on your network, and share a directory on there and see if you could use those source files in and out and see if that works in your workflow, I guess. Yeah. And it's not lazy to not want to get up and use SneakerNet all the time. It's not lazy.
It may be safer. What if you drop that drive? By the way, have you backed that drive up in honor of the 6.0 quake that took place over there the other day? Do yourself a favor. Back those files up off-site. Use CrashPlan. Set up BitTorrent Sync. By the way, BitTorrent Sync 1.4 is really pretty. They just released another update to that. An email from Earl about a secondary SSHD. I can buy from my local retailer right now a Seagate 4TB desktop SSHD SATA 3 with 64 megabytes of cache for only $10 more than the regular 4TB drive without the cache feature. I would be using this, or the solid state feature. I would be using this for a second drive for data storage with a my primary drive being an SSD. Is there any reason to shy away from this hybrid drive as a secondary drive? And on one hand, no. But unless you only access the same file or application off the secondary drive, it's really not going to make anything any faster. Yeah.
I don't think there's a negative to it.
Right.
It's because it's still the same capacity. It'll show up as one drive to you. You don't have to do any extra work for it. And the benefit is that maybe every once in a while something will load faster than you think it should, right? If you open a file, close it, and reopen it, then hey, you know, it will be faster. But if you're using it as your external storage and it's, you know, you're only accessing files every once in a while, then yeah, you're not gonna see a big difference. I mean, SSHD's hybrid drives are meant to be kind of they're meant for that kind of the boot drive mentality, but people who don't want to sacrifice, you know, speed for capacity, but you kind of are in both ways.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that's what's interesting about the X squared drive, which Alan is so in love with, which is a 2.5-inch Western Digital drive that's essentially like a 128 gigabyte SSD and a 1 terabyte hard drive. So instead of having like 64 megabytes of cache to cache one file that you use regularly, it's got a freaking SSD to cache everything you use regularly. So that I would find that super more awesome for hybrid. Solid state hybrid drives. You know what I mean? Like that's what all solid state hybrid drives should be. Freaking gigabytes of cache, not megabytes. So yeah. I don't know.
Go buy it.
Absolutely. Because maybe you'll build a $230 home theater machine and then you'll have the ultimate drive for speeding up the load.
Or spooning it, whatever.
Spooning up the load. Children.
Yeah,
children and sleep.
Don't listen.
Don't.
Let's explicit that. Yeah.
I just thought of a really funny joke that even I won't tell. Kent has a question about power supply units. Dear Twitch, love the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Kent. I have a PSU that's starting to make some funny vibration noises as if one of the bearings in the fan is starting to go bad. It probably is. Do yourself a favor. Don't start sticking a slot cover in it to make the vibration go away while you're recording things via Skype, because eventually you'll push it in too far and you'll short out the entire power supply. Maybe, if you're like me. It's a Thermaltake 850-watt PSU that is 5 years and 2 months old. It has a 5-year warranty. The engineers that designed this thing did a fantastic job. No sarcasm. If they can design a product that fails the day after the warranty runs out. In any case, 1, should I start looking for a replacement now or wait until this thing dies? 2, how much wattage do I need? I'm running a Sandy Bridge Core i5 with dual NVIDIA GTX 770s with 2 drives in the system. 3, any recommendations on brand or model of power supply units? Budget isn't so much a concern. I'm willing to spend if I can find a silent, clean power delivery, high-quality PSU that will last me the next several years. You know, if you're feeling wild and crazy, and Brian, feel free to suggest that I've completely lost my mind when I say this, along with my voice. You could also consider, if you're feeling kind of wild and crazy, replacing the fan inside the power supply unit. You have to be comfortable with opening up things. You have to not electrocute yourself. You have to not light things on fire. Or you could just, you know, kind of get all crazy with the, you know, Gorilla Tape and a, you know, standard PC fan and just, you know, disable the dying fan and strap some sort of fan to pull air through it. But
yeah, I don't know if that power supply fan has like a connector on it, or if it's hardwired to the board where you'd have to cut and splice the wire back in. You'd also want to make sure if you replace the fan that you are using one with like the same technical characteristics, right? Voltage, amperage, whatever, so that you know, because that power supply has a fan controller in it. It's spinning up the fan at different speeds based on the load of the power supply. You want to make sure that those fan curves remain the same. So you may want to open it up and maybe look up the fan model number and see if you can find like an exact replacement, or do some research online and see if there is like an equivalent or something else that maybe somebody else has used. That would be significantly less expensive than buying a new power supply. And I don't, there's nothing really dangerous inside a power supply. Obviously, you know, disconnect it from everything and let it sit for several minutes before you take the screwdriver to it and open it up. And it's outside of warranty, so you don't have to worry about that. The only thing you would worry about is
leaving it plugged in and electrocuting yourself. Blowing
or
your pacemaker out through your chest.
Components or something like that. But I think that's pretty minimal if you only mess with that fan.
And also, you know, like Ryan said, detach it from unplug it from the wall, unplug it from the motherboard, and at that point, it's pretty well isolated. It's funny, those GTX 770s are drawing 230 watts, so that's 460 watts right there. You know, so NVIDIA recommends like a 600 watt power supply if you're in a single card environment. So I'm thinking you probably want something in the neighborhood of another 850 watt power supply, should you choose not to risk electrocuting yourself or knocking out the local power transformer through some sort of personal error involving a screwdriver and the wall socket.
Oops, jab.
But you know, stranger things have happened. What's your favorite like 80 plus 800 watt power supply right now?
Seasonic and Corsair probably make the best ones out there that we use a lot around here. I'm trying to remember the exact model, but we have a Seasonic 850 that we move around from testbed from testbed to testbed as we build systems for demos and for videos and everything.
Is that part of the X series, or?
I think it is. I think it's the X8. I don't know if it's just the X850 or what it is.
There it is.
It's a
80 plus gold.
It's not a fully modular, whichever one that I have that we're using, but it's efficient. It's pretty quiet. It has plenty of connectors, and it's a good thing to be able to say that I have moved it from system to system to system to system, and like nothing's come apart. Like there have been loose connectors. And
that's a big deal. I'd like to point out. Yeah, the Seasonic X Series X850 now comes with modular cables.
Oh, okay, okay.
80 plus gold certified.
Yep.
100 to 240 volts, blah, 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 blah. $159 at Newegg. That's a pretty power supply.
Yeah, they do a good job. Corsair's HX series and their AX series. I don't know how low the AX goes because I know we have AX like 1000s and 1200s and 1500s. But those are all are high quality power supplies. I'm not going to say. I thought maybe they might have been built by Seasonic, but I'm not. I can't say for sure anymore. They could be FSP and a couple of other ODMs. So, but I mean, if you go to, PCPro.com, you go to the cases and cooling and power supply section.
Right.
There's a lot of reviews of power supplies. I'm sure you could find one in that range. And Lee, who does our power supply reviews, is among the best, if not the best, reviewer out there in terms of analyzing that stuff. So. He would be the guy.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, as far as fanless power supplies goes,
nothing that high.
Yeah, 520 watts basically.
Yeah,
that's like a Seasonic 520 watt, 80 plus platinum drive. I mean, they're pretty amazing. The nice thing though is most of the nice power supplies at this point are practically silent. Like they're in the 20-30 dB range, even with the fan kicked all the way up. So.
Right.
So close to silence on the power supply front.
You know what? To be honest, a good modern power supply is going to be the quietest component in your system, right? Compared to your processor fan. You need, if you have a water cooler, like the pump noise and your graphics cards. The AX 1500i is what we use on our GPU test bed because why not? But it's an 80 plus platinum, I want to say.
Right.
And that fan doesn't spin up until you start using like 500 or 600 watts of power. So 90% of the time when your system is on, a power supply like that would have no fan noise at all anyway. So, yeah.
It's tempting. All I know is right now the loudest thing in my house, I think, is the fan inside of my projector.
Yeah. And that's ridiculous, isn't it? Like that's... It's nuts that that stuff like that is the case. The AX 1500i, by the way, is expensive. I want to make sure it's a $450 power supply. So only buy that if you really need that much power.
So basically triple heading GPUs.
3 or 4 GPUs, right? That's the power supply I needed to do 2 Radeon R9 295X2. So 4 GPUs.
I forgot about that horrible build.
Yeah, like that's... I was testing that actually earlier today with that configuration again, and it was like drawing 1240 watts from the wall.
That's like toaster or hairdryer amounts of electricity. In fact, I think
but this plays games instead of just getting hot.
Yeah, but you can't cook toast on it yet. If you can just concentrate all that heat through some wires.
Yeah, I bet you could do that, right? If you're comfortable heating up those GPUs a lot. I mean, come on. I've seen processors hit 90C and run for hours. So that'll be able to toast some bread. right? If you get that heat distributed in the correct manner.
Oh man, now I want to start betting you money. You can't toast with a GPU.
Just we'll make a heat sink that is in the pattern of toast, a toaster, like in the inside of a toaster, and we'll probably still have to have a fan on it. And I think we'll be able to toast things.
That's an interesting thought.
How hot does a toaster get inside? I don't know.
Several hundred degrees.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Nichrome wire, man. That stuff gets hot. Wait, here we go. What temperature?
Yeah. What does the Google say? It can't be that bad. What's 90 C? What's that translate into? That's 100 and I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a little higher than 100.
As I said 100 and then I stopped. I don't want to do the 9/5 math right now. So
here, convert 90 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's 194 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, see? There you go.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is a toaster. This is probably the only time in TWiCH history where toasters have appeared on 2 shows in one day. There was a vintage 1955 toaster on the GizWiz earlier today.
I don't know. I'll have to look.
Ever
do some
used
research.
This? Oh, it makes. Oh, wow! I get it now. It actually burns the TWiCH logo into toast.
Yeah.
You probably.
I would burn the die markings of a GPU into the side of toast.
Oh, there's the TWiCH logo right there.
So.
Here we go.
Oh, he's zooming in on it. He's zooming in on our toaster. I don't understand. Come on, guys. Why won't this tell me? How come Yahoo Answers does not have this answer?
I don't know, but we're going to find it before we end this podcast.
Nah, I think this is a next week project. Somebody email me and tell me how hot it has to be to toast, and we'll figure that out.
When the wire begins to glow orange, it's at the correct temperature to melt acrylic. That is not helping me here.
I didn't want to melt acrylic.
Who knew
toast
that?
bread.
Okay, it's apparently nichrome wire is a big deal in rep wrap manufacturing.
Okay. So you're telling me I can't do it with a heatsink?
I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying I don't think you can.
I have seen somebody cook an egg on the back of a GPU once.
Really?
On the back of a video card. Yeah.
Glow plug science. Man, this is getting to be a weird.
Let's not do this. Let's not do this.
No, dude, it can't take more than a couple hours for me to find the answer to this. And then you'll see, then you'll be up all night and ready to post that story. So I'm assuming it's under NDA. What story can you not tell us about that's going live tomorrow on PCPer.com?
I mean, it's a new processor from Intel and a new motherboard platform.
X99? Are you breaking the X99?
Maybe you could just guess and probably figure it out.
X99?
Yeah. I mean, all the motherboards have leaked out, right? This is not a surprise.
Are you sure it's an X99?
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. And if you look on our live schedule, there's actually an Intel live stream tomorrow as well. Ooh. So it'll give you another indicator of what we're talking about. But yeah, if you just Google cook egg on GPU, there's plenty of videos of it. Cooking an egg on the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 480, for example.
Oh my goodness. I remember that card.
So you can do that.
That's really tough. Oh, wow. Cooking eggs on 3-way SLI GeForce GTX 580. Sorry, you were saying.
I'm trying to think of what else we have. I'm going to have another article on that G-Sync Surround and kind of detail individual game experiences and how I thought how well that worked or didn't work in a couple of instances. I guess that's all I could say for now. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now because I'm tired and I don't want to say something else I should say. So we're fine.
I will end the show quickly before I get you in legal trouble. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is a heat sink with aluminum foil with an egg inside of it that is soon to become something egg-like you would find in a mix something. Mix sandwich. Don't mix sumi.
Yum.
McDonald's. That just looks like it would be disgusting and stink. I'm just saying. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, now let's just stop. Stop or we're behind, Burke. Stop your egg cooking PC madness. Oh my goodness.
So what's coming up next on your side?
Oh my goodness. High performance Bluetooth. For some reason, everybody's releasing high performance Bluetooth audio, like audiophile grade Bluetooth receivers.
There is an Apple press conference coming up soon. Weird.
What's that?
There's an Apple press conference coming up soon, right? Weird.
September 9th, ladies and gentlemen. We expect not just the iPhone 6, but a new watch. Yeah, we just got a couple of the Android Wear watches in, I've spent a bunch of quality time trying to figure out if a $250 router will make your Wi-Fi faster. The answer, ladies and gentlemen, may surprise you, so keep your eye on Techzilla for that one. Also, if you want to learn about the alphabet soup of Wi-Fi networking configurations and why you still should run Ethernet everywhere in your house, keep an eye out on Techzilla. I'm a little cranky about that. You know, if you're going to label something 1900, it should be faster than 1200 or 600 or 300. I'm just saying. With that bright and cheerful moment, note, thought, thing, I'm going to end this before Ryan passes out or goes completely mad in Kentucky. Thank you so much for watching this episode of TWiCH. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Ryan Shrout.
We'll see you next week.